And now for our next news special report.
And now we delve into an emerging crisis point north of our border where Canada stands on the brink of an economic collapse. Canadian powerhouses of finance, the ones who've always kept their fingers on the pulse of the economy, have stepped forward. They've pointed a clear and accusing finger at one person, the Prime Minister himself, Justin Trudeau. It seems his ambitious immigration policies designed to spur economic growth have instead led the nation to the edge of a cliff. Can he pull back before it's too late, or is he too embroiled in his own vision to see the warning signs? Keep watching as we unravel the unprecedented situation unfolding in Canada. Now, before we dive into the Canadian crisis, I do want to shine a quick spotlight on the force behind our everyday operations, our fantastic sponsors. Consider the analogy of an advantageously using foreign substances to serve our needs. It can be beneficial, but there's a catch. Just like too many foreign substances within our body can cause all sorts of health issues, the same principle applies on a larger scale. And that's what we're witnessing in Canada right now, so this brings me to an effective solution I found for getting rid of harmful substances in our body. It's an amazing new product that helps speed up the breakdown of fat, reduce cravings, and boost our metabolism, endorsing reducing excess belly fat in our bodies. It's available now with a whopping 51% off this month at trimwithgary.com. It's a fantastic product, well worth checking out. But for now, back to the ongoing crisis in Canada. And Canada, once the envy of the world for its thriving economy, now stands as a cautionary tale of what can happen when political leaders fail to make sound decisions for their nation. Justin Trudeau's immigration strategy has wreaked havoc on the Canadian economy, and it's time we examine the devastating consequences. In a shocking video clip, Maxime Bernier, a prominent Canadian political figure, makes it clear that Canadians are struggling to afford housing and groceries, alluding to the dire effects of Trudeau's immigration policy. What's alarming is that Canada's birth rate has plummeted, possibly due to the unaffordability of housing. It's a stark reminder that economic policies have real-life consequences. Watch.
And we will bring a direct flight to Amritsar.
Yes, a direct flight. So, Pierre, all these flights, is it for more fake students, more foreign workers? No. We need to end mass immigration. No more flights. Pierre wants more immigrants and faster. It will be even worse for Canada than Trudeau. We need to stop mass immigration, and the only option is the People's Party of Canada.
Now let's dive deeper into the economic quagmire facing Canada. Trudeau's immigration policy, which force-fed the nation with over 1.25 million migrants in 2023 alone, has resulted in a host of problems. The inflation rate has soared, wage growth has been stifled, housing prices have become unattainable, and a homelessness crisis has emerged. But what's truly concerning is the impact on productivity and economic growth. Canadian millennials are facing a grim future, plagued by inflation and mass immigration. The situation isn't good, and it's partly due to Trudeau's policies. The economic challenges are pushing people out of the housing market and into the rental market, affecting birth rates negatively. Here's more.
I think a lot of millennials, I would include myself in this, it's not the next 1 or 2 years. It's like, what does the next 10 years look like? Everyone is talking about the same stuff now. You know this because of your line of work, but the people are talking about inflation, housing, immigration. Let's go through those three things. What does that look like in the next decade, 2 decades for people who are starting families? Are you going to be able to own a house if the population keeps growing at 4% a year in perpetuity? Probably not. Are you going to be able to stay here and get the healthcare that you're paying into, the roads you're paying into, the school you're paying into, any of the other social services you're paying into? Probably not. Are you going to be able to enjoy your retirement if the pension system, I think at the end of the day, there's only really 1 or 2 stats that matters. One of the key ones is 30, 40 years ago, there was 7 people working for every 1 pensioner. Now it's something like 3.5. If that's the case, are you going to get the pension you're paying into? I don't know. Mike Campbell, who's a great Canadian finance guy, you should have him on, actually. I've been on his show a few times. He always makes the case that, like, look, it's not about the nominal terms of your pension. You're going to get your, $3,000 a month. The question is, are you going to be able to get a bag of milk or a loaf of bread with that? What are you going to be able to get with it at the end of that time frame?
Trudeau's rapid population stimulus might have temporarily benefited some investors, but it's come at a great cost to ordinary Canadians. It's a stark reminder that while economic growth is essential, It must not come at the expense of the people's well-being. Ireland, like Canada, is facing a similar situation due to its leaders' push for population expansion through immigration. Housing prices have inflated, wages have stagnated, and public discontent is growing. As we just saw in the video clip, Ireland's Minister for Immigration admitted that the housing system remains under pressure due to the influx of asylum seekers, illustrating the real-world consequences of such policies. Watch.
If you look at the figures, another 330 or so asylum seekers arrived in the first week of the year. Now, that was more than in the first week of January 2023. So if that trend continues, in the short term, you're going to be in trouble, aren't you?
We're going to continue to be under pressure in the short term, yes. And that's why we need to use accommodation like Racket Hall. That's why we need to use the accommodation centres that we've opened around the country. It's why we've had to open accommodation swiftly over the last number of weeks, because the alternative is to leave families and leave female applicants unaccommodated.
And these new reception centres, where are they likely to be?
Well, that will be set out in the policy we're bringing to Cabinet, and obviously I'll discuss that with Cabinet.
And will they be new builds?
There will be a mix. I think there'll be some new builds. There'll be building on state land. There'll be new builds, and there'll be some purchases as well. I think we have to look at a range of mechanisms to bring more accommodation into state ownership. And importantly, when it's in state ownership, it's an asset for the state. It's not a current cost like we see at the moment.
Now, the situation in the United States is not entirely dissimilar. Alejandro Mayorkas, the U.S. border chief, has been trying to emulate Canada's immigration policy, leading to lower wages and skyrocketing housing prices. The economic interests of colleges and universities drive the massive influx of temporary students and workers, further exacerbating housing shortages and inflation. It's evident that the lessons from Canada's economic disaster should serve as a stark warning for other nations, including our own. While immigration can be beneficial, an uncontrolled and reckless approach can have severe consequences for the economy and the well-being of citizens. So the core issue here is that productivity is being sacrificed in the name of immigration. Canadian economist Craig Wright highlights that the economy's speed limit is determined by labor force growth and productivity. However, immigration alone is not a recipe for increased productivity. Investments in high-tech industries and cutting-edge technologies are what truly boost productivity, not simply adding more people to the workforce. The Canadian bankers that we've heard from today unanimously agree that the government needs to take a more thoughtful approach to immigration. They emphasize the importance of aligning social structures with the number of immigrants and implementing policies that ensure the well-being of all Canadians. And Ireland's situation, as we saw in that video clip, is remarkably similar to Canada's, with housing crisis and stagnant wages. The social contract has been broken for younger generations, and it's a consequence of policies that prioritize population growth over the welfare of citizens. In the United States, the economic impact of immigration is also significant. High levels of immigration have led to wage stagnation and soaring housing prices, disproportionately affecting the working class. This is a problem that demands serious attention, and it's one that should concern all of us. Canada's economic collapse serves as a stark reminder that a nation's economic policies should prioritize its citizens' well-being, not simply aim for population growth. While immigration can be a positive force, it must be carefully managed to ensure it benefits everyone. So why does this matter to Americans? Well, the answer is simple. The lessons from Canada's economic disaster should serve as a wake-up call. We must ensure that our economic policies prioritize the well-being of our citizens and the long-term health of our economy. We need to strike a balance between immigration and productivity, focusing on investments in technology and innovation. It's a lesson that transcends borders and political ideologies, because in the end, it's about the livelihoods of our people. If you found value in this report, tap subscribe. My final thought is next. Now, in the wake of Canada's economic catastrophe, we're left with a stark reminder that unchecked immigration policies, though maybe well-intentioned, can have severe and lasting consequences for a nation's well-being. As we've witnessed, the impact goes far beyond statistics and spreadsheets. It touches the lives of everyday citizens struggling to make ends meet. The lesson from our northern neighbors' ordeal is as universal as one that resonates with all nations, including our own. We must strike a careful balance between welcoming newcomers and ensuring the prosperity and security of our existing citizens. A nation's economic growth should never come at the cost of stagnant wages, unaffordable housing, and a diminished quality of life for its people. Now, this is not a call to halt immigration. of course, illegal immigration for sure, but rather a plea for responsible governance. It's a reminder we must prioritize investments in technology, innovation, and productivity to ensure the well-being of our workforce and the strength of our economy. So as we reflect on Canada's economic disaster, let it serve as a catalyst for a thoughtful, balanced approach to immigration policies. Let us learn from their mistakes and commit to a brighter future where the prosperity and security of our citizens always comes first. Congratulations, you made it to the end of the video. Now keep up your quest for truth with this next news report. And if you found our channel enlightening, join the millions who agree with you. Tap subscribe. Thank you for watching the Next News Network.